Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy Newsbeat podcast. My name's Stu Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. I'll tell you what, there is so much going on around the world right now, and climate is at the forefront of it. But climate and energy are intertwined because of the climate policies and the climate activists that are out there. And I have a fantastic special guest today. I have Tom Nelson. Tom Nelson, welcome and thank you for stopping by the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, your movie, Climate the Movie, we've got about a 2 minutes little video here that we're going to play a little bit later because I want to get our audiences, the flavor of this movie. This movie is phenomenal. And I want you to just, let's go ahead and just kick this off. This is a little bit of a thing here for us. And so let's get this rolling here.
People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
This is the story of how an eccentric environmental scare grew into a powerful global
This is crazy,
industry.
Tom. I am so thrilled to have gotten to talk to you about this.
Okay? You want climate, we'll give you climate.
There's a huge amount of money involved, and this is a huge, big money scam.
There are not just now billions, but there are trillions of dollars at stake.
It's a story of self-interest and big government funding.
People like me, our careers depend on funding of climate research. This is what I've been doing just about my whole career. This is what the other climate researchers are doing with their whole career. They don't want this to end.
If CO2 isn't having the huge negative impacts that we claimed it was having originally, how are we going to stay in business?
A lot of people's livelihoods depend on it. They're not going to give that up.
This is a story of the corruption of science.
There's no such thing as a climate emergency happening on this planet now. There's no evidence of one.
The climate alarm is
had a great chance to interview him twice.
I've never liked hoax. I think scam is a better word, but I'm willing to live with hoax.
It's a story about the bullying and intimidation of anyone who dares to challenge the climate alarm.
To speak up against or about climate change in any sort of skeptical way was essentially career suicide.
I think that'll give our listeners a very good flavor of the movie, but energy policies are based off of climate narrative by the left-leaning folks. So Tom, tell us how you got to the movie and how you even got involved in this.
Yeah, so I have been involved in the climate debate for a long time, since about 2007 or so. And at first I was on Blogspot, then I was on Twitter, and then I started a podcast in July of 22. And I was a big fan of Martin Durkin, who did the Great Global Warming Swindle in 2007. I invited him on my podcast in October of 22. And just out of the blue, he said, if I had the chance to remake that movie, I would love to do that, knowing what I know now and having more time. So that just kind of kicked the whole thing off. And I started working with him. And by the time we got started, it took about a year to complete the movie. And I think he just did a fabulous job. He's been involved in maybe 100 documentaries, and he really knows how to keep things moving and how to get the messages across. And he did the interviews, he did the narration, and it's 80 minutes that's really packed with information. I'm very happy with how it turned out.
And I love the movie. Absolutely phenomenal. You were also on the Energy Realities with David Blackman and Irina Slav and Tammy Nima. That was a great show. I just enjoyed your conversations on there as well too. And I've got rolling across on the banner your climatethemovie.net.
Yeah. That's one place you can watch the movie. Also, you can go to the Clintel website, and we've made it available so you can download the whole movie and you can download clips of the movie yourself. And a lot of people have done that. So as I was saying before we hit record, there's over 100 copies of the full movie on YouTube and Rumble and BitChute and Substack, and it's right on X. One copy on X has something like 1.4 million views already. So we're very happy with how it's just getting spread everywhere. And they're not going to be able to censor it completely because it is everywhere.
That is, my website, energynewsbeat.co, is censored by Google. They don't like me. Honestly, because I try to tell the truth. And I think that our podcasts, people want to hear your podcast. People, believe it or not, love our podcast from the standpoint that they're tired of mainstream media. I think people are tired of being shoved a narrative that they're being told they have to have. Is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement, and you can even see it in the data that the legacy media is going down. That their numbers are way down even in the last year. I think there's been a big awakening in the last few years as people have realized that we've been lied to over and over about so many different things. And then a lot of people have told me, I found out they were lying to us about the pandemic or whatever else. Then I started looking at and saying, what else are they lying to us about? And then I looked at climate and I found right away they're lying to us big time on climate. I'm very happy to hear that this is happening.
The Supreme Court just put out to the a couple big ones, and the Chevron deference was one of them, where they just put this out where it is really a separation of the ability for folks to sue the government and say, oh, by the way, legislation through regulatory actions, it's a way to stop it. And we've had two big decisions. The LNG ban just got stopped because of that legislation. And in that decision, Tom, they said the Secretary of Energy, the DOE, had no business with a climate motivated policy to stop our LNG export. So climate motivated policies impact people around the world.
Definitely. And as I've said many a time, that catastrophic human-caused global warming is the most massive scientific fraud in human history. It's absolutely huge, and it's crumbling in front of us. I'm watching it every day as it's crumbling. There's a big outfit called Climate Nexus. Just in the last month or so, they just threw in the towel. They are no more. And there's a lot of that. There's a YouTuber called Sabina Hassenfelder, and she has been very much on the other side. And just in the last couple months, she started saying, maybe we're being too alarmist about this. And she's kind of slowly switching over. And there's so much of that. Joe Rogan did that. In 2018, he interviewed Candace Owens. His mind was blown when she didn't believe in the climate scam. He thought we should trust the experts. And now it comes up a lot on his podcast. And when it does, he scoffs at it and the guests scoff at it. It's a big sea change, and I'm here for all of it. I'm loving it.
This is one man that has an open, an absolute open invitation. I'd love to have Al Gore on my podcast at any time. So if you're ever listening to this, because this one just cracks me up.
Chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
You have sea ice, which is melting at a rate that the Arctic Ocean now increasingly is exposed. In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic.
There is a...
What a bunch of hoo-haws. Sorry.
Yeah, John Holdren, the science advisor for, who was it? A few years ago, he was the science advisor. He was talking about disappearing sea ice in the Arctic in winter. He's like, in winter. That's how crazy it got. And of course, the ice isn't behaving at all as it's supposed to be. It's been growing for a few years in the Arctic. The Antarctic has not been warming. Over and over, just reality has conflicted completely with these crazy predictions. And just Adelaide in Australia just had their coldest day since 1908. That just happened. Yeah.
2023 was a cold year. I mean, and I'm sitting here thinking, it's kind of funny. Stats matter. And when we found that they're manipulating the data in order to prove their points.
They absolutely are. And one name I wanted to throw out here is Chris Martz. He's blowing up on Twitter lately. He's just gaining followers, and he just had a tweet that had 1 million impressions, just one of his tweets. So constantly, if there's something crazy that they say, which they say every day, he's going in there with the data and saying, no, here's the reality. And that's one reason why he's blowing up, and I'm loving that, loving it.
Let's get him on the podcast.
You absolutely should. Yeah. Yeah. He's the same age as Greta. So he just did a tweet about that Greta doesn't know a thing about any of the data. She's just all about trusting the experts, blah, blah, blah. And he's the same age, and he is going in and showing what the data actually shows. And again, there's no data anywhere that shows that CO2 is causing any problems. It's all alarmism.
No, in fact, Heidi just put out a up in Canada. She did the Canadian up north. Do you know? I'll bring her up here in a second. Anyway, but when we sit back and take a look, climate change happens. I mean, it's real, but
absolutely
climate modification. This one cracks me up. Why is it that chemtrails used to be a conspiracy theory, but now you see something like Dubai? Let me throw this out here.
Did you know Dubai creates its rain? Well, kind of. Most people get surprised when it rains in Dubai. 1 hour you have a thunderstorm, the next is a clear, sunny sky. Well, that's because the rain is actually generated. Yes, it's called cloud seeding. Imagine a specialized aircraft that goes up the sky just to find promising.
So then they just announced that they had spent, I think $1.7 million to do cloud seeding. And then they had a storm come through and they blamed it on climate change. And it was $1 billion worth of damage.
Yeah, I don't know what to think. For sure, some of it is going on. I don't know how much is happening.
We don't know, but I just thought it was funny that they did that. Climate change is happening. It's $1 billion. Oh, no, but we're cloud seeding.
But this whole idea that the earth is too hot and we need to do stuff to cool down the earth is completely crazy. Of course, all the times in the past as the earth's temperature has fluctuated up and down, the warm times have been the good times to be a human. And during the Little Ice Age, when it was cold, that was a bad time. Short growing seasons, less food, that was terrible. More disease. So warmth is good. Yeah. And fighting CO2, fighting small amounts of plant food, and thinking we're going to prevent bad weather, completely crazy. I say we could spend $50 trillion, go back and live in caves, never drive a real car again. There would be no measurable weather or climate benefit ever from that.
You know, one of the things that Dr. Patrick Moore, I love him. He is an absolute rock star.
I love him.
And I had the 2 podcasts with him, and they were 2 hours apiece, and it felt like 5 minutes. And I mean, the man is amazing. But when he says, you sit back and take a look, we are actually in a CO2. We're not healthy for CO2 amounts. So CO2 is not our problem. It's pollution. I mean, we got to work on pollution and not net zero.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea that there's too much CO2 in the air is completely crazy. If you look at a graph over the last 600 million years of estimates of CO2 in the air, we're very close to the low. We're way closer to the low than to the high. And if we have maybe 420 parts per million CO2, if we get under 200, then life on Earth would be in big trouble because plants need it. So anyway, the whole idea, we need more CO2. I love CO2. And the idea that CO2 helps the crops grow better. It's a major reason why the crops are growing better. Of course, we have better technology, better farming techniques, but just the CO2 in the air is making a difference. It is.
And so this comes back to energy, and we take a look at our natural gas plants are going through, the U.S. has, Tom, reduced its CO2 output by 22% last year. And that's because we taken down some of our coal plants, and we have now natural gas plants coming online. And their only reason they're able to come online is because they're hydrogen ready. Hydrogen ready is not going to happen. And so natural gas is okay now because we need AI and data centers. Hypocrisy abounds.
I think Nancy Pelosi famously said that she liked natural gas because it wasn't a fossil fuel, something along those lines. She didn't realize that she had that wrong too, as everything. So the degree of knowledge among a lot of politicians is very close to zero. It's amazing that they don't know anything about these important issues.
So with Climate the movie, you've got some great things coming around here to talk about and where you're going next with this. And also want feedback is what feedback have you had and impact that the movie's had?
Yeah, there's been a lot of public showings just for the premieres. I went to London. We had a premiere. We had hundreds of people, 570, I think, in the Netherlands. We did another premiere in DC. And there's been a lot of those showings. There's been a lot of suppression of it in the Netherlands, where Marcel Kroc has just been about ready to have a premiere or have a showing of it in a theater. And then they get canceled because we can't have that. It's misinformation. He had several of those. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. So you can't show a movie where you have a Nobel Prize winning physicist like Clauser. You can't show that because whatever it's going to poison the minds of the little people or something. It's pretty amazing still that there's some of that censorship. But as I've been saying, there is an awakening happening, and I think people are figuring out that we can't just trust the experts, and it's important to listen to other perspectives. And we're showing the movie. I should mention we're showing it in El Paso next weekend. We're showing it at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas coming up the week after that. It's going to be shown in Hong Kong at a huge conference coming up in September. So this movie has a lot of legs, and people are going to be watching it and clips of it for a long time.
Oh, this is really exciting. And I think people underestimate the importance of your movie. And I'll say this because it brought to light in a factual, entertaining way that you just mentioned. We are being stifled, because of controlling and social media and big tech controlling everything. And then you have political policies that are based off of climate. You have financial people printing money based off of climate fear. So you're at the tip of the spear over here, Tom, with your movie, and the impact around the world is all kind of like tied together, and not everybody's putting those dots together like that.
Yeah, that is one reason why this whole subject has interested me for so long, is that so much is hinging on this, that there's this whole idea that we're going to have central bank digital currency. And a major reason for having that is so that they can control you and me, that we can't buy too much gas in a month, or you can't fly too much, can't eat too much meat, or you're going to get cut off. That is a plan that would happen if we didn't fight back hard. But I think as we continue to fight back, they're not going to be able to push this on us. It's just too stupid, and people will not stand for this, but they'll try.
Wow. So how do people get a hold of you? It's at Tom Nelson is your X handle?
Yeah, Tom A. Nelson. Yes.
Thank you.
That's the best way to reach. And there, you can click on my link tree, and you can find all sorts of other information about me on my link tree there.
Well, I tell you what, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic time out there in West Texas. And, I love West Texas. All the great oil and gas workers out in there when you're out there, and also in Vegas, just get out there and keep showing the movie and let us know how we can help share the word out there, because your story is important.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if you can just share it via word of mouth, just talk to people and send them the link, and that really helps a lot. Viral spreading of the movie is the way to go.
Oh, hey, Brazilian, thank you from Brazil. I just wanted to say, hey, thanks. I'll tell you, it is very important to get your story out there, because it filters through energy, it filters through social, and the digital bank currency scares me to death.
Yeah, they're firing this up already. I think there's a guy named Godek down in South America where they're doing this kind of on a voluntary basis already. He got a call from his credit card company talking about something about his carbon footprint was too big or something. It's on they said it's voluntary for now, but there are people who would like to make this mandatory, that we have to prevent bad weather in 2070 by cracking down on people right now. Our behavior has to be modified, because that's how important this is. It's totally crazy.
Hey, Tom at Driller Shack. We love the guys over at Driller Shack. So anyway, the guys at Driller Shack are really good folks. They've got some good stuff going on out there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wish everybody a very happy July 1st, July 4th. And remember, we threw tea out millions of years ago, right? We may need to throw some more tea out again.
Yeah, we need to push back hard. Yeah.
Sounds great. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Tom.
All right. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Bye. Bye, Steve.